You talked about something at the start of this conversation. You mentioned the word geography. As we were talking about the macro factors that are at play in the transitions we've seen. My question to you is, does geography matter for success as an entrepreneur? So those kids in Cape Town, do they need to be thinking, listen, we need to move to one of the major cities if we're going to stand a chance in most of these new digital opportunities?
It used to matter a lot. When we used to think about entrepreneurs, we thought about two men, typically in their 20s, who came from a prestigious US university. They got into a garage. They dropped out of Harvard. They dropped out of Stanford, and then they started something that was VC backed. That was the old model of what we think of as an entrepreneur, and it was very much dependent upon those parameters. Entrepreneurship's transcended that. It's transcended geography, gender, race, and also the size and scale of what we consider to be successful. So what we're now seeing is people all over the world who are able to connect with markets anywhere in the world, launch a product that can be sold anywhere in the world. We're seeing people who bootstrap rather than get VC capital. We're seeing people who, rather than trying to create something mass market, they create something niche market. Rather than trying to scale to be a unicorn, they actually ask the question, at what size would I be fulfilled? So there are plenty of people who, one of the most fulfilling businesses that you'll ever have has between 6 and 12 people and does 3 or 4 million of revenue. And if you've got that, probably you're going to be the most fulfilled person in the world.
If it's profitable.
Yeah, well, because a lot of these businesses have 60% margins. If they're digital businesses, if they're intellectual property, if they're running on the new economy assets, then they'll be wildly profitable. So you might have 6 to 12 people do 2 or 3 million a year. You might make $1 million of clear profit. And then you're totally building a business on fun, freedom, and fulfillment. Are you the next Google? Absolutely not. Do you have VCs breathing down your neck? No. Are you able to pick and choose the types of people and opportunities you want to work with? Yes. So incredibly fulfilling. So that's a new type of business. I would call that a lifestyle boutique. There's another type of business called a performance business. And this is a business that typically has 30 people, normally working with some sort of technology, and they build a business that can be sold for between 10 and 100 million. And that's my game. I like businesses that achieve 10 to 100 million of valuation with about 30 people on a team, and we can sell to either a public listed company, a private equity backed company. We can exit to any of those kind of companies, but we don't have to be the next Google, and we also don't have to split the exit with a VC.
Why do you say that when you also just said that the most fun and fulfilling businesses are actually those small ones with a small group of people?
In order to go to that next level, you have to be a business geek. So anyone can build a 6 to 12 person business, and at that point, all you have to geek out on is the topic of interest to the customer. So if your customer loves yoga, you're just talking about yoga all the time. Or if your customer loves photography, you're talking about photography. And you don't have to be a business geek at that point. When you've got a team of about 30 to 100, you have to be totally into the product, the intellectual property of what you do, but you also have to geek out on technology, and you also have to geek out on business. So not everyone is built for that. You have to really love your acronyms. You need to go to market strategy, or, lifetime value of a client. Okay, what's the LTV? What's the GTM? So you kind of got to be into all of those things quite naturally. You naturally want to read business books. So you're not going to enjoy that if you hate business or if you hate technology, because those businesses tend to be about business strategy and tech. These ones are about intellectual property, media, and data.
Got you. Do you think you would be happier if you were less ambitious?
My happiness levels are really high. I walk around feeling like I'm super lucky to do what I do, and it's total privilege, and I love living in these times. I can't believe I'm lucky enough to be born at the perfect time to see this change and to have access to all these resources.
And how do you think about work-life balance these days? And how should, especially sort of young founders, when I say young founders, I don't mean age, I mean stage, should be thinking about work-life balance in your view?
So I had no balance for many years, probably a decade or more. All I did was essentially just get out of bed, work, everything related to work. And the reason I did that is that it ticked all of my human needs. Right? I was getting significance and variety, and I was, getting certainty, and I was getting all of those things that we want from life, and I was feeling a sense of growth and development and learning. So everything plugged into those human needs, and my business was giving me all of that. When I had kids and I got married, there was this whole other side to me that needed to be balanced. And I think that there's more to do with there's some seasons, like that we go through sprints, and I tell friends, family, hey, I'm going through a bit of a sprint right now. We're launching something new. And then there are times where I switch off a lot.
Do you goal set at all? Do you set goals? And if so,
I used to set goals, and I used to love setting goals. I don't anymore because my key person of influence brand brings in opportunities that I can't predict. So this Diary of a CEO thing was an example of that. I had all these goals for 2024, and then you message me while I'm skiing and say, would you like to come on the show? And I go, of course, that would be amazing. So I come on the show, and then that totally transformed my year. So as you build a brand, it's harder to goal set because you've got too many things. So goal setting is about direct power, direct influence. And having a brand is about indirect power or indirect influence. It's what you attract. So ultimately, at the early stages, goal setting is really important because it's how do I direct my energy? Once you get a little bit bigger, you have to slow down to speed up. You have to create space to see what's happening around you. One of the biggest mistakes I've ever made was filling my diary so full that I didn't see some of the biggest opportunities that were going on around me. And I think this has cost me tens of millions. And I really think at a certain level, strategically, you have to slow down to speed up. You have to create gaps where things can hit you, things can get onto your radar, or else you miss all the benefits of having a great brand.
So I had a few questions here. One of them is about how you measure or quantify the value of an opportunity looking forward when you have very little information about the opportunities.
So what we're trying to move towards is leverage. So that we live in a world of leverage, and there are types. So it's important to understand there are two types of opportunities. There's bell curve opportunities and power law opportunities. So bell curve opportunities means that everything fits within a bell curve, and it's very unlikely that anything will be outside of that bell curve. Power law opportunities means that because of leverage, the sky's the limit. What we have to do is have the courage to move out of bell curves and into power laws. So, for example, a doctor in the NHS who I know recognize that all doctors earn roughly the same amount of money. There's no outliers. Everyone who works in the NHS, if you're a new doctor, you earn about this. If you've been around for 20 years, you earn about this. And most people fit within that bell curve. There's no doctors who are making $1 million a month type thing. Then there's the power law. This particular guy dropped out of being an NHS doctor to become a YouTuber and recognized that there are some YouTubers who are actually earning $1 million a month, and boom, there is this power law that goes up. So what we're trying to find out—
Ali Abdaal.
Yes, of course, Ali Abdaal. So what we're trying to figure out is is this a bell curve or a power law? So being a speaker on a stage, absolutely a power law move. Being friends with a billionaire in Italy and having access to that capital, access to whatever networks they've got, all of that sort of stuff, if they're the right sort of person. There's definitely two types of billionaires, but that's probably an exponential opportunity, right? It puts you further up the power law. It's not a bell curve opportunity. However, if someone says, can we meet to talk about some incremental thing? No, that's a bell curve, right? That's not gonna break me out of what I'm doing. So for most people listening to this, most people are trapped inside a bell curve. You're never going to get out of that bell curve. Every opportunity fits within that bell curve. You're only going to incrementally move from one side of the bell curve to the other side of the bell curve, and that's about it. There is no massive upside. If that's you, what you need to be doing is spending a little bit of time talking to people about exponential opportunities, right? And exponential opportunities always involve leverage. That's what creates the exponential shift. Leverage could be fame. Leverage could be capital. Leverage could be large databases. Leverage could be huge distribution networks that already exist. Leverage could be a partnership with someone who's way further along than you are. Leverage could be being in business versus being in a job. So all of those things are things that move you onto the power law. And it's almost the sky's the limit at the moment, because in 2010, 28% of the world had fast internet. And in 2025, 70% of the world has fast internet. So 70% of 8 billion people have got fast internet. So the number of people available to talk to has gone into the billions and billions and billions. The amount of capital is flooding into the internet. Everything is in that space. And ultimately, unfortunately, one of the things that's happening at the moment is that you're either in competition with everyone in the world, or everyone in the world is a potential customer. And if you feel that you're in competition with everyone in the world, which a lot of people do, it's terrifying. It feels horrible. It's absolutely scary to think that, for a lot of businesses and a lot of individuals with a career, it's like, wow, I'm in competition with AI. I'm in competition with an agency in India or a remote worker in the Philippines who's happy for $5 an hour. I'm in competition with someone who's phenomenally well-funded in LA. I'm in competition with this incredible tech team in Silicon Valley.
YouTubers. Yeah.
I'm competing on the opportunity. I'm competing for attention. Like, how am I going to survive? And then the flip side of that is that once you make this transition to this new rules, new way of doing things, then it flips. It's like, oh, everyone's a potential customer.
So how do you think about defense? In many of your businesses that you run, you're in competition with lots of people. Where do you find areas to defend against that competition, the sort of proverbial blue oceans?
So what I'm looking for when I set up my businesses to scale is we ask the question, how many people this year could we either take on and leave them feeling completely delighted? How many people this year would represent a phenomenally good year? Right. So in one of the businesses, the number is 600. We say, okay, 600 people. If we have 600 people, 600 clients in this particular business for this year, that's a really good year. We're happy with that year. So we call that the official capacity of the business. We give it a name. Official capacity is 600. Then we ask the question, what percentage of our leads buy that product? And in that business, it's 1 in 66. So for every 66 leads we generate, we get one client who's the perfect client. So it's a very particular focused business. So then we know that we need to engage 49,000 people. And if those 49,000 people engage with us, then we will be able to select the 600 clients we work with, and that we will absolutely do everything we can to leave those 600 people feeling delighted, that they want to recommend it and refer it and they love it. And for us, just simply knowing those numbers, that allows us to say, okay, we engage 49,000 people, we make our 600 sales, it's a super successful year, we can celebrate that. So by setting the rules to our game, we're not dragged into anybody else's rules. And that means that we're playing a really defensive game. We're defending against all the things that we could focus on by being really specific about what we want to focus on.
And if for those kids on the promenade in Cape Town that I keep referring back to, if they'd asked you, if they said, Daniel, what industry would you start a business in today if you were us and you had limited funds?
Well, let's do some big trends. The biggest opportunity at the moment is 50% of the economy is owned by baby boomers, people aged 61 to 79. So that's 50% of the US economy, 50% of the Australian, the New Zealand, the Canadian, the UK, right? So all the sort of major Western economies that had a baby boom, 50% of the economy is owned by people aged 61 to 79. So those people are going through a big life change. They're transforming the way they live and work. They want to get rid of their businesses. They want to move into advisory roles. They want to travel. They want to have different relationships. They want to have different priorities. So I would definitely be thinking about, how do I work with that group of people? I'm either going to buy their business and take it over, which would be an opportunity. I'm going to build a business that disrupts the current way that they're doing business, or I'm going to sell to that market because they're cashed up, they've got loads of time, loads of money. And every business could think about how it's going to sell to a baby boomer market, because that's 50%.
So a good example might be of a baby boomer business. What's a good baby boomer business?
Everything. The whole economy is made up of baby. Like if we went out on the street here, the person down the road who's doing the MOT on the cars is a baby boomer business. The guy who services the elevators that come up and down here, that's baby boomer. The air conditioning unit business is a baby boomer business. The courier company that kind of dropped everything off. It's a baby boomer business. The whole damn shooting match is like mostly like 50, like half the businesses, and especially by revenue and valuation, it's all baby boomers or half baby boomers at least.
And there may be sort of a digital arbitrage or opportunity that there's been created with the transfer of, with the rise of digital that they might have missed that you could seize upon?
It massively, well, one of the things is that every single business in the world is going to be disrupted by AI. And you've got to be the company that uses AI when they're not. And using AI, like being disrupted by AI, just means that every employee is way more effective because they're using AI. So one of the simple things to disrupt a business with AI is to run a training workshop with all the people in the company about how they could use AI in their role. And you could watch some videos online, and you could play with ChatGPT. Recently, we introduced an AI system to one of our businesses. We have 250 video case studies of clients who are happy customers, and they've recorded a video for us. And they're amazing video case studies, but there's too many of them. There's so many video case studies. So we created an AI bot that reads and understands all of those video case studies. And then for my sales team, when they're talking to a customer, they're just typing in the type of scenario that person's going through. And the bot is then suggesting, oh, this is the video case study. This is the customer. This is what they said. Same industry as you, same problem, same challenge. And then here's the link to the video case study. Mm-hmm. So our sales team can be super effective at sending you through the exact video case study that's relevant to you, mm-hmm. because the AI bot has read and understood every single one of our video case studies. So that's an example.